Now that the closure is dry, I place the closure on the cap. And when you're doing the placement, you want to make sure that the closure is a little bit below the cap, just so like when you lay it down, you have a more flawless look. It makes it look less wiggy when you actually pull it forward. And then you just want to like pin it down around the sides as tight as possible. All right, so first you want to make sure like when you sew in the closure that you don't sew like directly through the elastic band portion of the cap. You want to just like sew through like that mesh portion, and make sure that your stitches are really close so that it doesn't like fall apart, because that would be terrible. For the girls who may not know how to sew, let me explain. So now that I'm done sewing the closure over the band, I can now go completely through the cap to sew the closure down. So as you can see, I'm going to first take my needle and stick it through the cap, then through the closure's rind, and then I'm going to take the needle and stick it through this loop that I created, pull it through, and then voila, now I have a secure knot to hold down my closure to the cap. And I'm just going to continue to create those knots around the closure until I'm done sewing it down. Now I'm going to draw my measurement lines, and this is how I'm going to know where to sew my wefts once I get ready to sew it on the machine. And then also, if you're sewing it by hand, this will help you sew it evenly, because then you can just follow your lines. So you should try it. But all you gotta do is just draw some straight lines across the nape, and then just keep going till you get to the top. And you'll notice that as I'm drawing my lines, that every single line that I draw isn't perfectly straight. But that is a-okay, because as you get a little bit more experience with sewing and drawing your lines, you'll notice that if a line is just a centimeter off with the being perfectly straight, you'll be able to fix that when you get ready to sew. Like once I get ready to sew, if I notice that a line isn't straight, I can just maneuver my hands more to get the line that I'm looking for. These lines aren't your end all be all. They are literally just guidelines to help you get to the finished product of sewing your unit. You want to try to get them as straight as possible, but do not worry if you mess it up by a little bit. You can fix that with the sewing, I promise you. You can see that the pattern that we will use to sew is super duper simple. I like to start all of my units at the sides by the closure and go around the perimeter of the cap, because I like for the hair to lay towards the face. Okay, let's actually get to the wig making now. So as you can see, we have finally made it to the sewing part of this process. I know it feels like it took forever to get to this point, but it's pretty simple actually to get it started. You just want to follow those guidelines that we created in the previous step, and you want to make sure that you hold your cap pretty taut, not really too tight, because you also want to make sure that you let the sewing machine kind of lead the way with your guidance with your hands, because if you try to force the sewing machine, then you can cause it to really clam up, and you don't want that to happen. That's just more of a headache. So as you can see, I'm just gonna let the sewing machine really lead the way along with my guidance. And then once you finish one row, you wanna go ahead and fold that weft over and then double stitch it so that you can lock down that fold, and just keep following the same process over and over again until you finish filling in the cap with your wefts, following your guidelines. And once you finish that, you'll be done with your wig. So here I am sewing the hair towards the face around the perimeter of the cap like I mentioned earlier in the video. This is really a crucial step in my opinion of the sewing process, because if you don't do this, your hair won't really fall towards the face, and when you're ready to curl your hair, even when you wear it straight, it just gives it a nice natural look. I just love the way the hair looks when it falls towards the face, and then especially when you add in your layers. This is a key step. I do not want you guys to miss this. And she is done. So as you can see, I am now done sewing this unit. I just continue to go around the cap with the sewing machine, and as you can see, it's really flat. And my next step for this unit is to color it. So in the next video, I will show you guys how I section it and get it ready for color.